Hello, everybody. This is episode 1, season 2 of the Launch School podcast. Before we get into it, I just wanted to explain why it's been so long since the end of season 1 before we started up this podcast again. We launched season 1 of the podcast in our first year of launching Launch School. And for those who aren't new to Launch School, we're going into our 4th year. The main problem we saw during that time was that people were just unfamiliar with this idea of mastery-based learning, which, as longtime followers of Launch School will know, that's what we're all about. It was just such a radical departure from the traditional way of learning, and especially from the many coding bootcamp options out there, that we want to take time to explain and share stories of how to be successful when we don't have a time duration in our courses. What does that feel like? What are the success factors in this new learning environment? And who are the people doing this? I think for the most part in season 1, we accomplished that goal of sharing with listeners some of the tactics and strategies and attributes that helps one be successful in this new way of learning, what we call mastery-based learning. For season 2, we wanted to go one step further and share what happens if one follows our mastery-based learning pedagogy to the end. It takes longer and it's unfamiliar, so what's the point? Why do this if not for better results? The problem is that to see these results of an educational approach optimized for the long term is that it takes a while to see. It's kind of like anything good for you in the long run. If you want to see the benefits of eating a healthy diet, the healthier the diet, the longer you have to wait to see the benefits. If you're just trying to satiate immediate hunger, any meal will do. So that's why it's taken a few years since season 1 of this podcast to launch season 2. What we wanted to do this season is to show the long-term results of our mastery-based learning pedagogy after a few years. So that's why the gap of a few years between season 1 and season 2. This season, we're going to speak to our Capstone graduates, many of whom who have been working for a year or more, maybe multiple years at their jobs at this point. We'll speak with Capstone graduates working at companies like DigitalOcean, Facebook, Timescale DB, Walmart Labs, and in software engineering roles ranging from blockchain to network infrastructure to time series databases. We'll also get to see a wide range of backgrounds that people have. So these stories aren't just about people who have PhDs in computer science. It's going to include people who didn't go to college, or immigrants, or bootcamp refugees who eventually found Launch School. So hopefully it will inspire and show that anyone can be successful in a mastery-based learning pedagogy. So I'm glad you're here and welcome to season 2. In this first episode, we'll chat with Tannr Allard, who has an amazing story and background. Tannr doesn't have a college degree and started Launch School only a few years removed from his high school graduation. After finishing Capstone, Tannr landed a job in New York City paying $120,000 while his high school classmates were still in college. Tannr now works at a blockchain startup, and I hope you enjoy this episode and enjoy his story.
Welcome to the Launch School podcast, where we discuss education, programming, and how to build a rewarding career in software engineering.
Welcome to the Launch School podcast. Today we have Tannr Allard, who graduated from the Launch School Capstone program. What's it been, Tannr? About 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, or something like that?
About that, yeah.
About that, yeah. Time flies. Yeah. So, how are you doing today? What are you working on now since that time? Since finishing up Capstone?
Yeah, actually, right now I'm working on preparing for a trip to Germany for the Web3 Summit, where I'll be doing a workshop on some blockchain development stuff.
Blockchain. Wow. What's the Web3 Summit?
It's a huge event, blockchain event, and I'm actually going to be at the Web3 Summit. It's like a few days long, and then another blockchain event right after that. But people from all over the world come to this event. Some big names, founders of common names like Ethereum and maybe Bitcoin. Although since
is this for work or is it just like personal interest?
Yeah, this is for work. Yeah, so I work remotely at a blockchain company, and basically just teaching people how to build decentralized applications on top of the blockchain system that we have implemented.
That sounds amazing. Besides that, anything else that you're working on that's interesting? I mean, that's already pretty interesting, I think. But what else?
Yeah. So the cool thing is that at this company, we kind of follow a management philosophy called programmer anarchy, and basically the technical team does whatever they feel is the best way to advance the company forward. And so we do a lot of collaboration, but we also really have our own projects that we have ownership over and things like that. So I'm working on right now, kind of just building a framework that can be used to easily develop decentralized applications that run on top of the blockchain in JavaScript. And JavaScript is a very familiar language, and there are some common complaints from developers about blockchain in the past have been things like, well, there's a high barrier of entry, and we have to learn this new language. Well, now they can build applications in JavaScript, which they're already familiar with. So building a framework for that, I built a prototypical one in Ruby as well that implements its own event loop and things like that. And other than that, also just doing some writing, kind of explaining how our programming paradigms work and building an in-browser IDE so people can debug their smart contract code before deploying it as well.
So wait a second. How old are you?
23.
And how did you? Most people are just like finishing up undergrad at 23. How did you get to being a blockchain developer? Going traveling to Germany, teaching people, building frameworks, building distributed applications. How did you get here? Maybe that story would be interesting to people.
Yeah. So I was in college for wellness and medicine. It was a pre-med program.
And when was this? This is like straight out of high school, like around 18-ish?
High school, yep. I went straight from high school to college. And I have always been really interested in philosophy as well, and just started thinking about my senior thesis. And it was going to have some computer science topics in it as well. It's really, I could go on a huge tangent about that, so I'll save it. But basically, it had some computer science topics in it as well. And I started to like computer science for its own sake and its own merits, not just as a means to an end, to my particular end. And so I started figuring out, well, if I want to learn this entire new field, what's the best way to do it? And I didn't really want to, well, first of all, my school didn't offer computer science programs, so I'd have to transfer. And I also, so that was what initially prompted me to research alternative paths. And so there was Teach Yourself, but I always liked learning and always continue to learn on my own. So the Teach Yourself path was appealing to me, but there's some fundamental flaws with absolute beginners trying to teach themselves these new topics, which is that, well, one thing that I say is that feedback is one of the best forms of self-improvement. And with Teach Yourself, feedback is sparse. And also, although there's no shortage of information about computer science online, and so I could gather all the information, I really didn't know how to structure it. I didn't know what the right fundamentals to focus on were, that type of thing. So structure, feedback were both important. I did look into boot camps, and basically, the more I looked into those, the less that appealed to me. I did like the air of intensity around it. You're studying hardcore for months upon months, but there seemed to be some obvious flaws in that model as well. And basically, if you confine it to such a short amount of time, I couldn't see the right depth occurring if I wanted to actually shift careers, which is what I wanted to do.
Wait, so this is like sophomore year-ish or freshman year in college?
This is junior year in college.
Oh, this is junior year. Okay. And so why didn't you, I guess, most juniors in college, I think they're already kind of committed to it, finish a degree, or maybe switch to computer science. Right. Did you think about either one of those choices, like just finishing out a degree fast and then, trying to convert to, programming job then, or just converting your major to computer science?
Right. Well, the problem with the major to computer science, the first problem was that my school didn't offer it, so I have to transfer. And actually, I left out a part of the story. I actually did transfer to a different school where enrolled in a degree program for software engineering, but I lasted 6 weeks. And that's not because I'm some flake, but it's because I quickly realized that the way the classroom based environment, I just did not feel worked for me. And there were some classes where things were going way too slow. There were some classes where the way the professors had to teach it wasn't the right methodology, and also I had already built up a habit of getting the minimum viable grade I needed to, and this hyper focus on grades just didn't work for me when what I actually wanted to do was develop skills I could use in a career setting. And so all of those reasons and a few more ended up making me last 6 weeks in that program. And then I actually transferred back to my original school in my same degree, and I didn't last long there either. And I'm actually glad that I didn't pursue that degree in the end, because after the frustration of switching to the degree and self-taught wasn't going to work, boot camps not only didn't seem effective, but also didn't seem effective for my goal in my situation, also were extremely expensive. I did find launch school, and I was in launch school probably for a few months while getting my degree program. And this is now in the senior year. So I'm in launch school. I'm in the senior year of my college degree program. And I actually realized that I really just wanted to focus on software development and computer science fully. And then it occurred to me, well, why stay in college? I'm not going to use this degree. I'm changing my field. And the only thing keeping me there was basically the sunk costs fallacy. and so I just dropped out and decided to do launch school full time.
Wow, that's senior year too, or end of junior, beginning of senior year. Wow, that's what about the idea that, or was there any doubt in your mind that if you didn't have a college degree, it'd be hard to get a job? How did you overcome that? How did you think about that?
So there was, of course, doubt. One thing to say before going into that is that I found launch school by accident. I guess I was just Googling around, and launch school's marketing is not very aggressive. It's hard to come across, but that actually was a good thing, because I'm always suspicious of the things that get plastered, thrown in your face, saying how great the program is and whatnot. And so I came across launch school, and then I saw the page, like the "Is this for you" page or something, and it's not. And everything it said appealed to me. It's mastery based learning. It's learning how to think like a professional software engineer. Emphasis on the problem solving skills instead of tools that will fade away. It's not going to be quick and easy. All this stuff, and I said, okay, so I'll take the plunge. And then so a few months after doing that, I decided I'd just drop out and do that full time. And of course, there were doubts. I mean, almost everyone who knew about what I was doing had their doubts.
What did your parents say? When they like you're leaving college for this random online program that you found? Was there a lot of pushback on that, or
Yeah,
or friends?
My mom always wanted me to get a degree. My dad was kind of different. He was like, go for it. He says, I'm probably
nice.
an idiot for giving you this advice, but go for it. My mom wanted me to finish the degree, but in the end, she didn't put up a fight. She was more suggested that that's what I do, but the whole "I support you no matter what" type thing.
That's
And
nice.
they were supporting. My friends thought I was crazy, just absolutely insane, and
Right,
you know,
because it's all ingrained in us, right, to just follow this path,
right.
and no matter what, finish that at least, and then do whatever it is you want to do. Whereas you sort of, didn't finish the quote, traditional path and did whatever you wanted to do before then.
Exactly. Yeah, I knew that I was going to switch fields after I got my degree, so I just figured I'd circumvent the process a little bit, try to skip a few rungs if possible, and try out this alternative method. And I mean, I had my concerns as well. What if the lack of degree filters me out immediately before I can even be
And
tested
in
on
your
them?
case, it's not even just lack of degree; it's also complete lack of experience in terms of like no experience in any field that you can even point to as transferable skills, right? Because you're so young and just no professional experience at all and no degree. Um, I guess you must have taken a leap of faith or something to recognize that, in our field, it is about skills. It is about, what you can do. How did you come to that conclusion?
Yeah, so yeah, it's true. I was extremely young, still am, and I didn't have any professional experience, didn't have a degree. Literally, it was all riding on the success of me completing this program and just trusting the process. But I really had that type of obsessive attitude, which is I would just tell myself, I'm going to make it work no matter what. And there were days where I would sit there and think, "Oh my gosh, did I make the wrong choice?" But in the end, it's just fear because I knew that I would have to get a job as some. Of
Right.
course,
Plus, it feels like if, let's say, you did make the wrong choice, it's like you're you can always go back and finish your degree.
yes, and that's the other thing is that I could try this as an experiment, and worst comes to worst, I go get my right. But I wanted to take this route because it was more direct. I thought why distract myself with these tangential things when there's a path right here for me that would allow me to directly pursue what I want to pursue. And yeah, so no work experience, no degree. It was all riding on whatever I would get out of
Do you
launch.
recall how long it took you to finish launch school? Just the core curriculum?
Yeah, I believe it was about a year and a half.
Year and a half. Okay. And were you working on that basically full time?
Full time study, yeah.
Okay. Um, and then after that, obviously the capstone.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I don't have the dates in front of me, but let's just say a year and a half ago,
Hmm.
2017, in 2017.
Yeah,
Um, you did capstone, you finished it, and then you relocated to New York City
yeah.
to for your first job, and you landed a job. Now, I just want to maybe give an indication because I know a lot of people listening will be like, okay, anybody can get a job in New York City, but maybe without forcing you to divulge your salary, let's say, like, do you want to maybe give an indication what type of job it was, or maybe, as a comparison or something like that to just
Yeah.
allow people some context?
Yep, that's yeah, absolutely. So first I'll mention that before I finished the core, I did get a job offer
Oh,
for
before you even finish the core curriculum without even entering capstone.
right after I finished the first half of the curriculum, I received a job offer from a local company,
Local
and that was
to
local to Vermont, so
Vermont.
rural.
Okay.
Yep, and that was for a $60,000 starting salary. And so but
Not
I
bad in
ended
Vermont.
not bad in Vermont, no. So the cost of living is far lower than in New York City, and that was with just the back end portion of the curriculum. So I didn't have any front end training at that point, and it was for Java. Even though I had not learned Java, didn't know Java, it was from the understanding the fundamentals, understanding how to think like a programmer that I was able to skirt by. There were over 20 people considered for that role. A lot of people with a lot more experience than I did, but I just relied on basically the problem solving process and the fundamental knowledge I learned from launch school. Ended up getting the offer for that.
Wow. What? So why did you apply? I don't think I know this. Did you just apply just to see how you would do on the market, or what was the sort of impetus behind applying, or were you like thinking about, hey, seriously, I might take this job?
Well, okay, so I didn't actually know if I would get if I so no one knows at the point where when I applied, no one knows if they're going to get into Capstone, and I think I had
Hmm.
failed a test, and so I was really convinced
We
that I
use
would.
not yet in mastery based terminology.
Yes, I received a not yet, which means that yeah, I'm not allowed to pass on to the next portion of the curriculum because I did not show mastery over the current content. And so that freaked me out a little bit. I thought, oh my gosh, my ultimate goal, getting the capstone, it's not going to happen. So I applied out of fear a little
That's
bit,
interesting. Yeah.
and also curiosity, though.
Right.
I mean, I wanted to see where I was from an employer's perspective, and yeah, that was without any. Um, I didn't have a degree. They knew that I
I
didn't
guess
have.
you turned that job down, or did you do it part time, or what
No,
happened there?
I turned that job down because basically I got through the front end portion a lot quicker, and the interview process took a long time. I think I went through 5 rounds of interviews, and so it took a long
Wow.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and So I ended up feeling better about where I was. I don't remember if I had been invited to Capstone yet or not, or if I just felt like I was going to because my performance was a lot better. And so, or I was more confident in it. And so I did turn it down.
Wow.
I asked them to wait a little while.
Did
And
your family or friends know about that?
yep, they did. And so a lot of people thought I should take the job. But when I was invited to Capstone, I decided that I'm going to decline the job offer and go into Capstone instead. And so definitely didn't regret that. Yeah. After Capstone, I moved to New York City. Um, and that was my first time ever being in New York, let alone New York City. So that was a little scary, but yeah, I moved to New York City and just started applying. And I didn't apply to any junior developer roles or sometimes called software developer one or software engineer one. I only applied to mid-level and senior roles. And uh, my talk, the talk about the project that I built in Capstone got accepted to talk to different meetups, and so I ended up presenting, gaining referrals that way, and it was basically a grueling 2 weeks. But at the end of 2 weeks, you know, I was in the final phase of interviews with some companies, and and then I don't remember which companies gave me offers, but there was one that I ended up accepting, which was for $120,000 starting salary along with a signing bonus, and that was a mid-level software engineer role.
So after 2 weeks of finishing Capstone, you had multiple job offers and ended up taking this one that
Yes,
basically doubled your other job offer in Vermont.
that's right. Plus a signing bonus.
Plus
Yeah.
a signing bonus. Yeah. I think this is one of those things whenever people look at our results and our salaries out of Capstone, out of launch school, people are always asking me how we get those. And part of it, of course, is training. But another part of it is walking away from the first jobs that you run into. And it takes a certain level of confidence to do that, to know that you're going to a different place, right, than the opportunity presented to you here, the first one. So I think that's hard. It's hard to turn down $60,000, and kudos to you for having the confidence to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering what at this point what did your did you share sort of your your salary and your of course your job, but did you share that with your high school classmates? I'm kind of wondering what their opinion is or what their impression was.
Most definitely I shared it because they questioned me every step of the way. And so it turned out being that I became I transformed from the dropout to the person with a sweet job in New York City, uh, while they were all graduating college and struggling to find jobs, you know. And so I definitely shared that with them. And actually,
That's funny.
they're all interested in joining launch school now because so some of them are in the prep course right
But
now.
do they ever? Oh, are they? That's interesting. That's good. Did they ever say something like, "Well, at least we have a college degree, and maybe a little bit took a little bit longer, and all that"? Do they hold that over your head?
Yeah, so in a way, because they would say, "Well, I mean, I'm just going to get this degree. I will have the degree, and then I can do whatever I want." And it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like the degree is some sort of insurance. But the
Mm-hmm.
funny thing is, uh, I mean, I'm getting my degree in computer science now, and I can
Hmm.
do it at my pace, and I have this very high-paying job.
You're doing like a is it like a part time or online or
Yeah, it's a online computer science degree, and so I just basically it's competency based learning, and it's not self paced.
oh, and when are you going to
But
finish that?
if you choose to study, I should finish it the beginning of next year.
Well, that's really soon because it's August now.
Yeah,
Okay, so in basically, let's say 6 months' time, they won't even be able to say that. Like at least we took this long way, but have a degree.
right. Yeah, so it's kind of just reversing the order. I got the really high paying job before getting the degree, and now I can get the degree at my own leisure. I'm paying for it out of pocket, and it's very affordable. So I don't have any loans that I'm taking out either.
That's
I'm living
amazing.
a very high quality life. Yeah.
This journey that you took, I want to say it's alternative, but really, I think it's only alternative only because we've been sold this traditional path so much.
Right.
But really it seems like the more sensible path, right? From just a mathematical standpoint. If you can get to a six-figure job faster, right? You can get that and then still like get your degree afterwards.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that it's this there's this notion that you must have the degree before you start your career. And in this particular field, turns out that's not the case, and I'm very happy about that. But it makes way more sense to me to do it this way, because the stress is so much lower. Just day to day stress, financial stress, everything. It's all
Right.
been
You
by
don't have to
doing it.
work at Domino's delivering pizza to pay for your college tuition.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or I guess you're put it another way, you're the equivalent of the pizza delivery job is you're, going to blockchain teaching people to distribute applications in Germany.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and this job is also fully remote, and so I organize my day how I see fit, and my own schedule and whatnot as well. So there's a lot of freedom, and
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, and you're only 23. So when you went to New York, you were like around 21-ish?
yep. I was 21 when I moved to New York. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. So after that first job in New York, I guess that was not the this job you have now, right? So after a year and a half of work experience, you were able to parlay that, I guess, into pursuing an industry that you're far more passionate about, which is blockchain. Do you? I always, mention to people early in launch school curriculum how learning things well unlocks future opportunities. I get a lot of people asking me about how to get into data science, how to get into blockchain, how to get into VR, augmented reality, all these things, machine learning. But to me, these are sort of like branches up a knowledge tree that are further up, right? And what you got to learn is the trunk, and then you can choose all these different branches to go down.
Yeah.
And actually, again, you went down this path too, not just the alternative path, but also kind of going down the path of navigating yourself into a subfield that you're passionate about. You want to talk about that a little bit in terms of how, going through the core curriculum, mastering fundamentals, like did learning, the basics of programming concepts, was it a waste when it comes to, your blockchain job?
Yeah. So this is super important because you could be a beginner and enroll in some blockchain or data science or machine learning program that teaches you that. But that sets you up to if you do that, you're going to end up having to go back and learn the fundamentals at some point and take time off from your job if you can even land one without the fundamentals. But the fact is that the fundamentals are the most important, because that is what allows one to easily assimilate and consume large amounts of information. For example, I mean, it's common for Capstone graduates to need to learn new languages on the fly. Since starting at my current job, I've learned C and Rust, and that was only possible because I knew how to think about programming. I was, from all the fundamental skills that were taught in launch school and the fundamental mental models that we use to think about programming concepts. And blockchain, so I haven't really done machine learning, data science, or those things, but what I can say is that it's more like, if you have I'm going to use a cake analogy for some reason, but if you have if you have a cake, and the specialization is the frosting, you don't have a cake if it's just frosting, right? I mean, you need that large amount of fundamental training in order to make it work. Because even though you work in the specialization, day to day, like my development, for example, it's blockchain, yes, but you have to be able to understand other people's code, read that code. You have to be able to optimize. You have to be able to think about, say, problems that can arise in distributed systems, which is something in Capstone. But even if you don't do Capstone, you know, even something as simple as variables as pointers and drilling that into your mind could cause, especially in this particular specialization, when we're running low level code on virtual machines across many different nodes, cause huge issues if you don't understand how memory works.
Right. Yeah. I always, whenever I talk to people early on in a curriculum, I always implore them to not get too bogged down with learning frameworks early, like React. I've been in this industry since 2002, 17, 18 years now, and I've seen lots of technologies come and go, even technologies that seem like it's going to stay here forever. React is very popular now, but if you dedicate time to becoming really good at using React, first of all, you're pigeonholing yourself into that one job role, which again may be high paying today, but
Right.
will that be high paying 5 years from now? So one is sort of the danger of pigeonholing yourself into a technology at a high level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is you really cannot parlay that experience very easily to something like building distributed applications, on a blockchain. Whereas if you understand programming fundamentals, you can really parlay that expertise in a variety of directions, right? And you also fortify yourself against sort of this trendy technologies that come and go every 5 years, right? And we are in the prime of the JavaScript wave, but it's really not about JavaScript, right? It's really about whatever comes in the future. It's okay, Rust, right? It's okay, right? Doesn't matter. And also about where your interests may go, whether it's blockchain or data science or machine learning, right? You can push in whatever direction. I think that's so critical when you're learning something new.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that uh, with learning tools and frameworks, if you don't understand fundamentals first, then yes, you've been pigeonholed into that particular tool, and that's not really being a developer. That's being uh, a framework user or a tool user. And when that tool goes away, which it definitely will, uh, you no longer have a solid grounding in fundamentals to stand on, and then quickly learn the new tools that have come out, or even understand why those tools came out. Because, I mean, frameworks are designed to solve specific problems. Tools are designed to solve specific problems. You have to have the fundamental understanding to know what those problems are, and to evaluate the validity of the framework. I mean, there are so many different options out there whenever you want to build something. It's not necessarily the case that React is always even the best choice. But if you are quote unquote React developer, well, you're always going to choose React, even if something else might be far better suited for the problem at hand. And uh, learning these tools quickly, and I mean a week or less, that's possible, but it's only possible if you have a strong grounding and fundamental concepts that don't change even when the tools change. Because, like you said, trends are constantly shifting, but fundamentals stay the same. And that's what's going to make you competitive in the long run and um, have you established in a strong and secure career, is the the strong understanding of the things that don't change even when the trends do.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I feel like going back to sort of just your overall journey to how you got here and sort of having the intuition or confidence to walk away from your degree. It's such an interesting path. I think I know the answer to this question, but would you do it again, given what you know today?
Oh yeah, 100 times over. It's actually, I mean, I'm not just saying this isn't hyperbole, but law school dramatically changed my life. Um, I never actually thought that I would be in this type of position, be so financially secure, love my job every day. Um,
At 23.
at 23, though,
Yeah.
yeah. When I was asked what kind of salary I'd be happy with or really excited about before before joining law school and before going on the job, I mean, yeah, and before going on the job hunt, I said, wow, 60, 70,000, that would be amazing.
Right.
Right. Uh,
Right.
now that seems like that would be a huge pay cut to me.
Right.
So,
Yeah, but I think most people are they're okay with lower paying if it's good opportunity, if it offers good career growth. But I always say that's not how the world works. It's not that you get to make that trade-off. The good jobs have all the benefits, right? They have all the, good vacation days, good health benefits, You buy as many monitors you want, and they come with high pay. It's not like the low paying jobs have those positive benefits.
Yeah,
So
that's one thing that I have actually tried to caution people against is not all developer jobs are created equal. You can get a terrible developer job and still be called a developer. Same title, completely different roles, completely different responsibilities, completely different mentorship, obviously completely different pay. But it's pay is not the only benefit I glean from going down this path. It's also the training, the confidence, the security, the opportunity to do things like travel to Berlin. I just found out I was going there last week, and I'm leaving Sunday, which is in a few days. I mean, meeting some of the greatest minds in the field. Those are all benefits, but you don't usually get those unless you also find a high-paying job, a very high-quality job. So not all developer jobs are created equal. That's definitely
yeah, I think the salary is a proxy for a quote unquote good job. That
yes,
because it correlates with it, right? It
yeah,
correlates with it. And so I definitely advise people to find the good jobs. If you find a low paying good job, that's good too, right? But such things very, very rarely exist,
yeah.
that combination. So, all right, last question for you, Tanner, before we go. Why do you think more people aren't taking this path? Why, again, you had some intuition or confidence to walk away from degree, but how come, most people are still sort of taking that path, and not taking the path that you've taken, sort of finding a job first that pays well, and then getting your degree if you want.
Right, right. So I've actually been thinking about that too, and definitely has multiple components to it. The first is, and definitely not the only, is awareness. Not a lot of people realize, I think, that there is this very viable alternative path that ends up with better results. And so that's the first thing. Second thing is, I mean, even when my friends knew that I was doing it, there's still fear. It's such an ingrained
Hmm.
idea that you have to go to college first. You go to college, graduate high school, go to college, then you start your career. So ingrained that going against that, it's scary. I mean, I was scared too. I did it anyway. But I mean, my friends wouldn't even consider it
Is it a
until
marketing trick to say that taking out a loan for like 40 grand is the less fearful path?
yeah, that I don't know how having our awareness that there is this alternative path. I'm not sure that it's riskier to take this path rather than going to college first because I mean the amount of costs incurred by loans and paying for college is so huge. I'd rather be in a position where I have a very nice cushion to sit on in a large income as security while going to college. It's way riskier. You could be stuck with loans for the rest of your life otherwise. So it's certainly a marketing trick. It's definitely not a truth that
Right.
going versus less risky.
So last question. I know that I said last question was the last question, but well, how do your parents feel today? What do they say?
Oh, they're super glad that I went through this path. I mean, um, sorry, it's just funny, but yeah, they don't regret it at all. My mom still says that if I ever want to, I should get a degree. So she's happy that I am, but not for the money, just for the intellectual enrichment. My dad, my dad thinks, nah, you don't need a degree. Yeah, but my dad just believes I don't need one at all. My mom thinks that it might be helpful uh, for my own fulfillment because I love learning. But um, they definitely sometimes when I talk on the phone with them, they say to think just a couple of years ago, you thought you were going to med school and you'd still be in college at this point. Look how dramatically for the better life has changed.
Yeah, yeah. I do hope that more people realize it too, that there is another alternative path. And again, I don't think it's about skipping college or, foregoing a degree, but that you, as you said, go back to get a degree for the intellectual benefit, not for just acquiring that degree. Because I feel like, and I felt similarly, back in the day when I was in college a long time ago, is that when you're there because you know you have to be there, not because you want to, you start to, as you alluded to earlier, like play tricks with grades. You do the minimal viable work to get an A. Brown nose to teachers to try to gain their favor, to get a better grade on, the subjective grading, right? Essays or something like that. So students do all kinds of tricks to do the minimum amount of work to get a good grade. And that's logical. That's what you should do if that's the game we're playing. But
Right.
why even play that game? If you can go back to college or go to college for intellectual knowledge, stimulation, you'll be a better student. You'll be more engaged, and you won't be trying to game the classes for a grade.
Yeah, exactly. People ask me now, well, you've got this great job, great career. Why are you going back to college? And I said, well, I mean, why not? It's affordable. I can learn every day, and it's structured. And I do a lot of learning at my job too, so I really don't have the willpower to structure my own my own learning curriculum at this point. So it's better for someone else to tell me what to learn, because I do love learning.
And also, it's kind of related, right? Like it's the same thing. So
yeah, and it's way easier. I mean, a lot of the classes I know all the material already. So,
right.
But there are some that are interesting and tangential to what I learned, and so. But yeah, it's just fulfilling to keep learning. But I don't need it for my career, and it's not a career-based action that I'm taking. It's purely personal and for fun.
Yeah, awesome. So happy to see you doing well. I'm so happy to interview you a few years out. Sometimes we interview people, while they're in launch school or immediately after graduating, but it's always nice to catch up with people a few years out just to see the progression. And I always say that for launch school, we want to prepare people for the long term. It's so hard to quantify that. It's so hard to demonstrate that because it's like saying you'll see the benefit of what you're doing now 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? It's just hard to perceive. Whereas if I were to, cook you a dish or something, you can taste it right away and perceive it right away. So glad to have you here, Tannr. And maybe we'll catch up on this podcast maybe a year or two out from now and see where you are, and sort of track your journey as you go.
Awesome. Sounds good. I really enjoyed talking about myself.
Awesome. Well, enjoy your trip to Germany. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Launch School podcast. Check back for new episodes and don't forget to like, subscribe, and review.